The coldest room usually announces itself before the furnace does. You feel it around your ankles while the wall thermostat says 70. You turn the heat up 2 clicks. The rest of the house grows stuffy, yet that one chair beside the window still feels like January. If moving cold air is coming through a window or outside door you normally open and close, the 1936 fix is straightforward. Confirm the leaking edge. Fit manufacturer-approved weather stripping to the moving joint or appropriate compatible caulk to a dry sound gap that never moves, then make sure the opening still works. This will not address missing insulation or a weak heating system, and I am making no price or savings promise. Near the end, I will set my father's green ledger beside 3 federal documents that explain the cold current. You need no flame, no smoke, and no homemade draft test. If the opening is accessible and you can work safely, this may be a manageable weekend repair. I went down to my basement workshop and opened the top drawer of the bench. The green cloth cover was where it has been for years. Corners worn pale, pencil columns running from 1931 through 1939. That ledger scene belongs to my family story. In 1936, USDA Extension issued 2 short releases about preparing a house and operating its heating plant. A federal circular from that same year explained why a room could feel uneven even with a respectable thermostat reading. USDA engineers described what they called cold 70. That phrase caught me because it names the argument between your ankles and the dial. Wind and temperature differences can move outdoor air through a gap. Air cooled near glass can move downward, while warmer air remains higher in the room. By the end, you will know how to decide whether this is an appropriate small repair. If it is wet, damaged, difficult to reach, or part of a larger problem, the right result is a call for qualified help. I will save the exact dates, release numbers, page details, and source order for the final entry. I spent 40 years as a machinist. 1/1000th of an inch mattered at the lathe. Yet at home I treated a cold room like weather coming through the roof of the world. I kept turning the thermostat and calling it normal. Then one winter bill reached $480. That was when I opened the ledger instead of another catalog. I was angry at myself because I had measured steel more carefully than I measured my own house. Federal energy data say space heating accounted for 43% of energy consumed in American homes in 2020. That is a national energy share. It is not 43% of your bill. The same survey found natural gas was the main heating fuel in 46% of homes and electricity in 41%. Propane stood at 5%, and fuel oil or kerosene at 4%. Regions, houses, systems, and prices differ. I am not promising you $1 of savings. I am asking you to diagnose one discomfort before buying capacity you may not need. A strip cannot create heat. It can reduce uncontrolled air movement only where a confirmed leak exists. Pick one cold day and one window or outside door near the chair where you feel the current. Pause nearby portable fans. Leave every fuel-burning appliance, vent, flue, and control alone. Do not climb, remove trim, or open an electrical cover. Check all sides of the sash or door, the place where moving sections meet, and the seam where trim meets the wall. Notice whether the suspected gap moves when the opening moves. Weather stripping belongs where a sash or door moves against its frame. Appropriate caulk belongs only in a dry, sound seam that stays still. Next, bring the back of your bare hand close to each edge and compare one area with another. Check more than once. If you want a second clue, hold one light tissue loosely near the suspected gap. Keep it away from heaters, flames, outlets, flues, vents, and fans. Tissue movement can support your observation, though it cannot identify the cause by itself. Mark the suspect place with a small piece of removable tape. Open and close the window or door repeatedly. Look for looseness, warping, water, rot, peeling material, a painted shut sash, or a latch that already requires force. Egress means an opening you may need to use to escape. If this window or door serves that purpose, it must remain easy to open and reliable to latch. Stop if it binds, if the frame is wet or soft, or if the work requires a ladder or strength you cannot safely manage. Before shopping, take a clear photograph of the leaking edge and measure the gap. Note whether the surface slides, swings, compresses, or never moves. Bring the photograph and measurement to the store. Tell the clerk what the opening does and what the two surfaces are made of. Choose manufacturer-approved material intended for that moving or stationary surface and that gap size. For a moving edge, clean and dry the surface as the product directs. Try a short removable section before covering the whole edge. Operate the opening repeatedly. It must open freely, close fully, and latch reliably. If the test fits, continue according to the instructions without stretching or stacking layers. For an appropriate stationary seam, use compatible caulk only on a dry and sound surface. Never caulk a moving part. Never cover weep holes, drainage paths, locks, hinges, labels, required vents, or designed openings. Afterward, compare the same edge again under similar weather. The honest goal is reduced local air movement while preserving safe operation. There is no promised degree change, percentage, or dollar result. This is not a heating trick, but a diagnosis followed by a small repair. Why did advice this practical become less familiar? The sources do not prove why it faded. In 1933, federal radio advice told families facing scarce fuel to keep a few occupied rooms comfortable, separate an unused room, and draw a heavy curtain across a hall or doorway. It warned that pipes in unheated rooms must not freeze. In 1936, federal guidance connected loose sash, door frames, insulation, and heating plant operation. In 1937, an account of 9 Wisconsin farmhouses described large temperature differences inside rooms and associated more even comfort with storm windows, storm doors, weather stripping, and fewer drafts. That was a small observational report, not a national experiment. Here is my personal interpretation. My own habit changed as replacement became easier for me. I reached for a thermostat, a catalog, or a new machine before I checked a small opening. I cannot turn that confession into a post-war history. These documents do not establish a campaign, a commercial motive, or a single reason older advice left everyday conversation. They only show the advice was printed, and my story shows that I forgot it. One 1936 attic experiment in a single Madison house reported about 5% lower fuel oil use after one particular attic wood floor was completed. That result belongs to one house and one test arrangement. It does not belong on a weather strip package, and it says nothing about your bill. The useful recovery is the habit of checking a small cause before purchasing a large cure. It does not support a story about who buried it or why. If you're thinking this only works for people with a farm and a root cellar, stay with me. This next part is for the house you live in right now. Make a 9-point decision before sealing anything. The suspected source is a window or outside door you normally open and close. Egress means the window or door you may need to escape through. It must still open freely and latch reliably after the work. Never block a return grill, supply register, designed door undercut, or required ventilation opening. A return path is the route room air uses to get back to the furnace or air handler. In a forced air house, shutting that route can change pressure, reduce delivered airflow, and increase leakage elsewhere. If closing a door changes airflow, noise, odor, or system operation, reopen it and ask a heating professional to assess the system. Never seal a flue, combustion air opening, dryer vent, kitchen exhaust, bath exhaust, or required ventilation. Natural draft equipment means an older furnace, boiler, or water heater that depends on chimney pull instead of a powered exhaust fan. If a home with that equipment is being tightened substantially, arrange qualified combustion safety service before proceeding. Do not test chimney draft with smoke or flame. Persistent condensation after tightening means stop and have humidity, ventilation, leakage, and cold surfaces evaluated. If balance, grip, vision, access, or mobility makes the job uncertain, ask for in-person help. Here is the honesty beat. This method will not address cold caused by missing wall or attic insulation, a leaking duct, an air-bound radiator, faulty or undersized equipment, or a poorly placed thermostat. It will not address water intrusion, rot, wet insulation, or air that seems to come from an attic, floor, register, electrical penetration, flue, or required vent. If you smell gas, stop work, leave the area without operating switches or searching for the source, and follow your gas utility or local emergency instructions from a safe place. Soot, scorch marks, flame rollout, or repeated pilot failure call for shutdown according to the appliance instructions and prompt service by a qualified heating or combustion professional. If a smoke or carbon monoxide alarm sounds, go outdoors or to fresh air and call 911 or the fire department. Do not re-enter until responders say it is safe. If an outlet, plug, cord, or wall plate is hot, scorched, loose, cracked, or damaged, stop using it and call a licensed electrician. Do not remove the cover or attempt a repair. Keep portable heaters at least 3 feet from anything that can burn on a stable level surface and plug directly into a wall outlet. Never use an extension cord or power strip. Turn a heater off when leaving the room or going to sleep. Never use an oven, stove, grill, camp stove, generator, or outdoor fuel burning device to heat a home. Keep curtains, shades, bedding, rugs, and furniture clear of heaters, radiators, baseboards, fireplaces, and registers. Install carbon monoxide alarms on every level and outside sleeping areas, following local rules and the alarm instructions. Never close off heat where water lines could freeze. During severe cold, protect exposed plumbing and follow local guidance. Everything I have gathered from these public sources and organized in my ledger method lives in one place, the Depression household system. It includes 30 food stretching recipes, a seasonal bill-cutting calendar, the repair box checklist, and printable monthly ledger pages. You can find it at grandpasledger.com. It is $17, yours forever, with no subscription. Stay here, because the next entry is the source sequence I built this whole video around. It begins with one release and ends with 3 public records you can check for yourself. The page in my family ledger is dated November 29, 1936. In the story my father left me, the back bedroom had a cold current at the west window. That page is part of the story I used to tell this lesson. Begin with USDA Extension Release number 114, Getting the House Ready for Winter, dated October 15, 1936. On page 1, the release says loose windows and door frames should be weather stripped to help keep cold air out around window sash and doors. Across pages 1 and 2, it says those openings can admit much cold air and should be appropriately filled. It does not say the department invented the method that every family used it, or that one strip fixes every cold room. Now place beside it Arthur Senner's USDA Circular No. 406, Oil Burners for Home Heating, issued in November 1936. Air cooled at a window can drop and move across the floor while warmer air remains above. One thermostat reading cannot describe comfort at every place in a room. The engineers called this cold 70. That does not make 70 a universal comfort number. It explains why your ankles and the dial can report different experiences and why a confirmed current deserves attention before you demand more heat from the whole system. Finish with USDA Extension Release Number 128, Running the Heating Plant Economically, dated November 27, 1936. Its opening gives the order of operations. First, make the house as weather-tight as possible and perhaps insulate it for greater warmth. The next job is to operate the heating plant efficiently. I am leaving its period coal firing instructions in the archive. They are history, not current. Do-it-yourself guidance. Check the envelope first. Then seek qualified service for the heating equipment if the problem remains. All 3 documents can be read free through the Internet Archive. Search the complete titles or use the source links in the video description. Release 114 supplies the repair. Circular 406 supplies the physical reason. Release 128 supplies the order. There is one separate historical practice to label correctly. A federal script dated February 2, 1933 said fully lowered shades and fully drawn curtains could help on cold evenings. That is period advice from 1933. Current Energy Department guidance is different and more complete. Open coverings on windows receiving direct winter sun. Close them at night and on windows receiving no sun. In either case, keep coverings clear of heaters, exits, and required airflow, and watch for condensation. Confirm moving air at one sound, accessible opening. Photograph and measure the gap. Match weather stripping to moving contact or appropriate caulk to a stationary seam. Preserve drainage, ventilation, escape, and operation. Check the edge again. If the current remains or the opening becomes difficult, stop. The evidence has done its job. It has told you that the larger cause needs a building or heating professional. If the window still opens freely and the chair no longer sits in that sharp little current, the feeling is quiet satisfaction. You made one careful entry without pretending the house owed you a guaranteed result. If the tissue still moves or the room stays cold, a building or heating professional may be the right next entry. Either answer is useful because both are honest. My small ask is this. In the comments, write the year your parents were born. Those years remind us that useful household knowledge has moved through many generations. The next ledger page moves from the coldest room to the kitchen table. The research question is how 1930s families kept food fresh without a refrigerator, and which practices, if any, agree with current food safety guidance. I will compare one federal storage guide with current USDA food safety guidance before recommending anything. It does not promise a cost, a temperature result, or that an old method remains safe today. This is not a channel. It is a family ledger, reopened, one entry at a time. Subscribe if you want to help recover the next one. Remember 2 habits for the next weekend you choose. Measure first. Change one thing, check it again.